All right, guys. So I wanted to start introducing some drumming videos into the mix here on my Patreon, um, because I noticed that doing all this finger cymbal playing, um, starting to like drift into drum language. So I want to just have some rhythm breakdowns and some 101 drumming videos available to you if that's something that you're interested in pursuing. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel that drumming knowledge is something that is essential for belly dance. That isn't to say that you need to take it to, mastery level, that you need to be like, a virtuoso of percussion instruments, but being able to recognize rhythms, being able to kind of tap them out, to play them on a drum or on your finger cymbals, um, knowing where the accents are. These are things that are going to basically amp up your musicality and your understanding of, um, your understanding of music, which is your musicality, um, your understanding of music, and also context of dance, and um, yeah, and also to be honest with you, one of the big things that I've loved about being part of this sort of belly dance world or community has been those times where I've been able to either dance with drummers or drum for dancers. I think that it adds just a very unique experience for those that are involved, but also if you're taking it the performance route, also for those that are watching. Um, so just to kind of start, I want to say just a disclaimer, just some uh, opening thoughts about percussion and drumming. First thing is, it's really important to note that this is a skill. So you're not necessarily going to be good at it the first few times you do it. Maybe the first few months that you do it, you're still, you know, uh, getting your chops basically, and learning. So I think it's important to be comfortable with that, to be okay with not sounding great at first and making mistakes and fumbling and losing your place and all of that. Um, I mean, it's the same thing with dance. The first time out, I mean, most of us, I can't speak for everyone, but most of us are not all that great at it going out. It's about learning about your instrument, about um, kind of listening in and noticing what sounds good to you, what you like, what you don't like, and sort of building your own style and skill along the way. Some really good ways of doing this. For me personally, when I first started learning about drumming, this kind of went hand in hand with my learning of belly dance. I was very lucky to have a teacher that really brought drumming into the classroom setting on a regular basis. We would do our drills and all that good stuff in the beginning, and then at the end of the class, it would be sort of like almost like a drum circle. We would have some drumming, some dancing, and then we would switch. And I feel like that experience was so important to my growth, or my birth, I guess, or growth as someone who can play the drums, as well as dance with drummers. So if you have the opportunity in your area to find that sort of environment where, we're all learners, we're all students, and we're all kind of developing, um, that's huge. And I highly recommend um, seeking that out if you can. If not, another great avenue for learning drumming in sort of this in a very like non traditional like classroom sort of environment would be going to drum circles. This was another big one for me. And drum circles are awesome because you can take it in any skill level. You know, if you're there and all you can do is hold the bass beat, that's fine. No one's going to have a problem with that. But if you want to start, you know, riffing off of other drummers, or playing with sort of like counter rhythms, things like that, like that's a great environment to do that. And I feel like a lot of what I've learned in drumming has been through that sort of informal drum circle community. So definitely, if you are interested in building your skills, going that route as well. As you kind of are getting more familiar with the rhythms, getting more familiar with your instrument, feeling more confident, also checking out things like student recitals, haflas. A lot of the time there will be a time for more like casual social dancing, and dancers, in my experience, are always appreciative if you bring a couple drums along, you know, whether they are, you know, whether they drum themselves or they're curious about it, or just want to build their own experience with dancing with live music. It's a really great avenue as well. Beyond that, not all of our learning can be with others. You also have to take the time to learn by yourself, to practice alone, to listen to, you know, rhythm tracks and drum solos, whether again on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you know, listen to music. You know, taking the time to really like listen in, identify what's going on, maybe also playing along, and again, just practice as much as you can. I recognize also that that's difficult. I myself, I live in an apartment right now. Most of my recording, pretty much all of my recording, is done in the apartment, so I'm trying to be mindful of my neighbors in that respect. So you know, you can practice, you can get these rhythms in your muscle memory and in your actual memory without wailing on the drum and making a ton of noise, you know. And if you don't have a drum, you can tap it out on your legs, use your finger cymbals, grab a empty coffee can. Like, there's a lot of possibilities for practicing these skills that don't necessarily involve like being out, playing loud, all that sort of thing. Okay, so those are just some opening thoughts on the subject that I wanted to share. Otherwise, for me, the two types of drums that I really like to use are the goblet drum. Sometimes it's called the doumbek, sometimes it's called the tabla drum, but it's this guy right here. So as you can see, it looks kind of goblet-like, chalice-like. A lot of these have, most of these actually have these sort of synthetic heads. This style is more of an Egyptian style. There's also like a Turkish style doumbek, which if you look it up, you can look up these pictures online. Different structure, different sound. So it just depends on what you like and what you're looking for. So that's the goblet drum. The way that we hold this, just to kind of show you quickly. So usually when you're playing this, you're most of the time going to be possibly sitting in an actual chair, but you can also play on the ground like I am right now. So you would just take your drum, kind of this little space, like like between when it starts to kind of get narrow. You just place that right on your lap. You want it to be pretty close to your body, and you just kind of rest your top hand right up here, and then you have this hand free. Usually it's going to be your dominant hand is going to be free to hit your bass tones and your techs, and we're going to get into that in 1 second. But I also wanted to show the other drum that I'll be using in a lot of these videos is a frame drum. This is also called a tar or a bendir, which is a little bit of a different style. But yeah, it's just basically you're just working with your drum head here. There's a couple ways that you can play it or hold it. You can do similar to your doumbek style, where it's more like on the lap. You just get in the frame here, so it's on your lap, and then your top hand is going to rest on your one hand's going to rest on top here, supporting the drum, and then all the other work is done with your dominant hand again. Or a lot of your frame drums are going to have this sort of like lip here, and that's going to be to hold it in a different way. So basically with that, you're just going to kind of take your thumb into that little divot there, and so it's just basically like flip-flopping it. So whereas you would generally with the doumbek, or if you're holding it on your lap, you're going to be playing like that. This time the top hand is now on the bottom, but the dominant hand that's going to be hitting your bass tones and your text is going to be the same. All right. So when I first got into drumming, I was all about the doumbek. That was pretty much solely what I played, but I will admit these days I've been more attracted to the frame drum for some reason. I'm not really sure why. I think also for me anyways, I feel like the tone is a little easier to control with that. It's just a personal preference. Again, you don't have to have a drum to do these videos, or if you have a different type of drum, maybe you're a djembe sort of person, which is also fine. You can still play all of these rhythms. It's just going to be a different technique for how you're playing it. With that said, with most of these tutorials, I'm going to be using drum sounds, I suppose, to kind of break down what rhythms we're looking at. So the three main tones that we have available are going to be our dun, which is our bass tone. So when you hit a dun, you want to think about hitting it toward the center of your drum. It doesn't have to be the exact center, and it's going to be the best tone is going to be different depending on the instrument that you're playing. So and again, like finding where that is and what that sounds like for you is going to be a practice. It's going to be something that you need to kind of figure out as you go. But you want to have a firm hand and hitting sort of toward the center there, and that's going to be more of your bass tone, your lower tone, your dun. Okay, so dun is toward the center, and again, as with any percussion instrument, we kind of talked about this with some of our early finger cymbal tutorials, is it's all about creating resonance, and in order for your instrument to resonate, you have to have space. So if you wanted more of a muffled tone, you would hold the palm of the hand onto the head. That's gonna close the vibration, so it's not the tone is not going to have as much room to move around and to vibrate. It's going to be muffled a little bit. Whereas if you do more of a hit the drum and then release it, that's going to have more air, more space for the resonance. So that has a very different tone than, as you can see. So again, playing around with that in your own way. So dun is our bass tone toward the center of the drum. Then we also have a tek. So the tek is more of a treble tone, and most of the time that's going to be toward the side of the drum. Generally, you can really do a tek on the top or the side, but most of the time it's going to be on this sort of side area. And again, how you make that tone is going to be different depending on the instrument that you're playing. A lot of times when I'm hitting a tek, I'm just doing it with maybe one or two fingers. I don't necessarily hit my whole hand with my whole not palm, but I'm not hitting it with all of my fingers. Basically, it's going to be maybe like just the middle finger, or maybe the middle and the ring. And I feel that how that resonates changes depending on what's surrounding it, but we're not going to get too into that right now. So that's your tek is going to be on the side here. So you got your doon and your tek. Doon, tek, doon, tek, doon, tek, doon, tek. All right. And the third tone that we'll be working with for these videos is going to be a ka. So a ka is most often going to be kind of like in tandem with your teks. And you can hit that ka up on top. And again, you can see I'm just using, a lot of times I'll just be using like one finger. You don't have to, you can use all your fingers to hit it, but again, as you are playing more and experimenting more, you might want to be hitting some of these little rolls, things like that, maybe riffing with multiple fingers, things like that. So again, it's something that's going to develop. This is kind of like the mantra of drumming, is it's something that you would develop over time with your practice. Okay, so just one more time, you have your doon, tek, and a ka. Doon, tek, ka. Doon, tek, ka. Doon, tek, ka. Doon, tek, ka. And again, I'm not really letting these tones ring out because I'm trying to be respectful to my neighbors, but that is basically where you're hitting it, the general technique that you're going to be using with those tones. And then I'm just going to do that one more time with my frame drum here, just so you can kind of see the technique is very much the same. The doon is more toward the center. Again, as you can see, I'm not hitting it right in the center. The tone is going to be a little bit lower on certain places, depending on your instrument. So you got your doon, your tek, which is down here, and then your ka. Doon, tek, ka, doon, tek, ka, doon, tek, ka, doon. All right. So those are kind of the three tones that we're going to be working with mostly with these videos. Our bass tone, our treble tone, and then the ka, which is another treble. It's just usually on the opposite hand. All right, so I think that's really all I wanted to talk about just for this little introduction. I know we didn't really do any playing in this one, but I had some things I wanted to say, some things I wanted to introduce before really getting into the practice and the meat and the potatoes. So yeah, stay tuned for more drumming videos. Again, this is kind of my bread and butter. This is some stuff that I really love that relates to this sort of belly dance art form, and I think it's a really vital part. So happy drumming, and I'll see you next time.